Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Where you at, folks? It's your man, always Joy Page, aka the Emperor of Female Body Talk, coming to you live on YouTube. Well, folks, can you believe it? This is the last full week of October. We have a few more days left, but this is the last few weeks as Halloween's around the corner. All the spooks are out. Ghosts and goblins are coming. So, anyway, folks, as a content maker, I really want to get perspective about this sport, especially if my thing is about the ladies, because I'm a fan of these ladies and I really want to know. I want knowledge because, like I said, I'm an outsider. I don't know much about all this and all that. I'm still learning, especially when I do interviews and have people on here who tell me the stuff that maybe that most people don't know about bodybuilding. But I do have one gentleman here. This is my big brother. He is IFB Pro men's open bodybuilder, Mr. Big Keith Williams, aka Exclusive, aka the Black Hulk Hogan, aka the man who used to mess with my girl, but I'm not gonna talk about that anymore. Yeah, he got the
What
muscles,
up?
whatever.
What
I got
up?
these. I got these. And we talk about how the judging criteria is just, I don't know. This last Olympia, it seemed like to me it was kind of uh, a bit off. You think?
Yeah, here's the thing. You hear the word balance and aesthetics more than conditioning. And I've heard several bodybuilders. We talked about one earlier. It's a YouTube out there on Quentin, who actually worked with Matt Jensen, one of the trainers out there. And, people are chasing after certain things. And I think the things that they're chasing after are things that they shouldn't be chasing after because, like, Bob Chigarillo said, about women's physique, you know, chasing after conditioning should be one of the whole balance of things. Like, Hade Kupo was off. Derek completely was off. Samson Dua, who's the new champion, was on. Andrea Shaw, she brings in something so special because she brings a balance of aesthetics, conditioning, a great balance of beauty, uh, force in the muscles and things like that. And again, like I try to tell people, I said, when you're chasing after something, and Sandy Williamson, I remember again, because I can speak on this, because when I talked to Andrea last time I seen her in Detroit when I was training at her gym, she's like, Sandy said, just come in the same. We can always be better, but she doesn't have to change much. And she knew she was off at the World Championships, and she knew staying in Arizona, working with a new trainer, that what she had to bring to the table. Because again, remember, Alina had emphasized it with her. Linda had emphasized it with her. Like, what are you going to do different, you know, before the Olympia to try to hold on to your title, not to so you lost your world championship title, but to hold on to your Olympia title. So clearly she made a coach's move and made a coach's change. I don't even know who this guy, the producer, is, but clearly he trained Sid Gilman, who's the 8-time figure champion, and she brought her balance back. She brought what she needed back to the table. And I think when us as athletes are looking at certain people,
Right. We just lost my big bro. He should be back in a sec. There he is. Bring him back in. You go. Pick up.
Quinn said it best. He says, when I was chasing after, when I was chasing after who I thought I should be chasing after, it wasn't Derek and it was Hade. It was Andrew Jack and it was Samson Dua. Because I think his look more was, and it is, was more like those two guys. So he was never like, and he said Nick Walker. I wasn't chasing after Nick. I wasn't chasing after Hade. I wasn't chasing after uh, Derek Langford. I was chasing after Samson and Andrew Jack because these guys are all tall guys. These guys are shit. I think when I just looked at a video of Samson, he weighed in like 305 pounds. I think at the Olympia he was like 295. Andrew was somewhere in the 290s too. But these guys are tall guys. But again, what I'm realizing about what I'm seeing in women's bodybuilding and men's bodybuilding is aesthetics. Aesthetics with not only aesthetics, but like they said with Samson last year when he was third, they're like more depth to the back, more depth, a little bit drier and more conditioned, So with his aesthetics and things like that, it plays a big role. And I don't think that, some people chase after size, which I think with them whatsoever. So it's one of those things where it's one of those things where sorry about that. It's one of those
That's right.
things where I think the size doesn't play. I mean, it all depends who you are. It all depends on your build, and I think some of these girls, what happens is when they chase after condition, and again, I always go back to what Sean Ray said when they brought women's bodybuilding back. We all love Iris as a competitor. She's the most winning Olympia competitor ever. But it got too hardcore. It got too rough. It got too, I mean, I've seen even a picture of her at the Olympia, and I'm like, geez, I'm like, hard on the eyes, I would say. No disrespect, because it's hard work, and her condition is crazy. But I don't think it's appealing to a lot of people in the sport. You know what I mean? It's not. It's like when you look at Andrea, when you look at Andrea, you look at Sid. They're beautiful women. Look at Linda, beautiful women. I mean, and if you look at and then you look at Iris, there's a difference between the 3 and the 4. You know what I'm saying? You know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I love Iris, but she was so hardcore. She was an unbelievable worker. Every Olympia title, she deserved a couple ones. I mean, it probably should have beat her in one. But again, at the end of the day, when you look at, we talked about this off air. When I'm looking at what I want to see on stage of a balance of muscle and beauty, um, that's kind of what I want to see. And I think some of these girls, are, for one, need to get off the gear at some point during the off season, and seriously, because some of these girls run shit all year long, and and that's just why they look the way they do, and some guys do too. It's not just women; some guys do too. But at the end of the day, that's the problem, And so, if I'm looking at the top of the mountain, and we talked about this last week, I am going to look at you know, people like I'm a tall guy. I'm 5'10" and 3/4. People think I'm 6 foot because I'm not that tall. But for a bodybuilder, I'm tall. So when I'm looking at somebody that I'm aspiring to be in right now, like Samson, Andrew Jack, a Quentin, those guys, because they're like taller, but they're my height, and their aesthetics and their balance is unbelievable. Where if you looked at Nick Walker when he first started getting into this sport to where he's at now, it's like it's like people like Dallas, who's no longer with us. You know, they just pushed too hard and lost that mainstream look, and it's just a yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we have here a guest here. This is the amazing IFB Pro physique competitor. She, the lovely Mrs. Amanda Patak, the Viking Blood Queen. And she is also a guest here because this morning she sent me a thing, and we've been talking back and forth, I told her, you want to say something? Come on my show. Come on, have the guts. You may not have it, but have the testicle fortitude to prove your point. So,
You're crazy. Hey, can you hear me?
yeah, we can hear you. Yeah,
Okay,
no
cool.
crazy. I keep
Uh,
telling people I'm a particular type of criminal. I can't help it. I'm crazy. But as if you heard earlier what my big bro was talking about, we were talking about how the difference between how the divisions are, the look is changing. Like where some competitors are chasing either size or conditioning, they want to be more complete as an athlete. What's your thoughts? Because you've been on the stage, both of y'all been on the stage. Y'all competed along some of the great competitors.
my opinion is that people are chasing the judges, and that's something you should never do as a competitor. That's just my opinion. So, I don't know. I was taught a long time ago when I first started competing that you never chase the judges and what they're doing. You just bring in the best physique that you can based on your genetics, your hard work, your ethic, and the criteria set forth for the division. That's just how I feel. I've never chased the judges. I would never chase the judges. And if the judges are rewarding the more mass and the leaner, more striated, like for example, my division women's physique, I'm not going to take that route. Just personally, I wouldn't. But I understand that a lot of people are just out to win. I'm more of a I'm more of I'm in it for the hunt, not the kill. If that makes sense.
I understand. Yeah, I said that. Yeah. Yeah, it's just as I said again, I'm an outsider. And for what I see, my mindset sees a big pump women. But then the instead again, the vision is going to like folks, I'll pull this up. I did made a little slide. I'm gonna pull it up for y'all if y'all want to check it out.
Okay.
And I took some pictures and put them together. And I took
Give me
different
glasses.
individuals. Here I
Oh,
have
Tom, can you give me glasses?
here I have here Andrea Shaw and Christina Mendoza. And also I have Teresa and Vasic. Both these ladies have just a believable great physiques, very great potential. I think they have some of those that feminine look that they want to see more. Also, they bring in a good amount of muscle. So y'all both watched Olympia. So what's y'all thoughts?
On these three women, or thoughts on what?
All these three women.
Let me see. I got to take a little bit better of a gander here.
Yeah. Well, again, let's get Keith. 'Cause Keith, he watched it. Wait, like we talked about earlier about Christina, and also earlier before we started, and also talk about you know Andrea. Then you could put in someone like Teresa, who has that also that aesthetic, but then I think she didn't come in condition like she should have for the show.
Yeah, the one in the blue, right?
Here's the thing.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Here's the thing. As a person who looked at when they first got women's bodybuilding back, I personally like this look. Yeah, can some of the girls be a little bit tighter? Like, can Christina be a little tighter? Can in a little more condition? Can Teresa? But when I'm looking at something, I'm looking at the appeal to the common person, like me as a pro bodybuilder. And I like this look. My wife's a pro. I like this look. It's a balance of muscle, femininity. Yeah, she be a little? Can the other two girls be a little bit more conditioned? Yeah, but isn't that what they talked about bringing when they brought bodybuilding back? Isn't it? It's the look that they're talking about bringing back.
Isn't that why they
and
created the women's physique division?
yeah, but here's the thing: the women's physique division they're harder than the women's bodybuilders.
I know. I
Again,
totally agree. Yeah, you're right.
when Bob Cigarillo, created this division, it's like again, I respect what Amanda said because she's like, you can't, you can't. It's we got at some point in time you got to hold the judges accountable.
Thank you.
And
I
who's really
totally
holding them
agree.
accountable?
Yep.
Because again, you are rewarding this.
Yep.
And it's especially if you're a head judge, especially at these pro shows, like here's the thing: when I play in NFL, they have NFL meetings, right? So all these NFL owners get together and they talk about things. As players, we have these NFL symposiums where we get the new rules and the new guidelines and all this other stuff. When are they going to get these judges all in a room, fly to New York or fly to Jim Mannion's place out in Pittsburgh and sit down and say, okay, every year, twice a year, we're going to go over this so we know exactly all these head judges or all these promoters that are put on these pro shows know exactly what we are looking for.
Well, next up here, I have here Andrew Yo, Nadia Capasoto, and Arsenio Barrito. They have what you call great conditioning. But like I said, it's still on a bit on the smaller side because they were at one point women's physique, but it went to women's bodybuilding.
Again, it's one of those things that it's a balance between the two. But some are more hardcore than others. Again, if I'm a judge talking to women and women's bodybuilding, that's the reason why in Amanda's class, Daniel and Baby left. Because she's like, I'm not willing to do this shit and change my body in order to keep winning titles because that's what you're gonna do, and that's where it came to now. I thought when Daniel Bailey became champion, that was like, and Julia became champion, that was like perfect. That's what women's physique should be about. And it's gotten harder and harder. Same thing in women's bodybuilding. They said we want not as hard as Iris was, but a balance between the two. But we're going right back down that road. And you can only go right back down that road if the judges are allowing you to go right back down that road.
Yep.
Here we have another set. We have here Ashley Jones. We have Michaela Aycock, and we have here Hunter Henderson. And there, as you know, with the shorter women, it's just sometimes it can be a hit or miss with conditioning development. Especially if you look at Michaela, she's really short. Michaela's barely 5 feet, and I think Ashley's maybe about 5 feet.
Yep.
And it seems like when you put on the muscle, it's hard. You know, you can put on really good amount of muscle, but it's just how it goes, where it goes.
Well, and that's what should they have two different classes? Should they have a tall and a short class? I mean, that's what I think should happen in this women's bodybuilding, that they should have a short and a tall class, because it only makes it's like 212 guys versus an open guy. You know you can't compare the two, because you got, again, 212 versus open guys, and that's mean you're over 212 pounds. And so it's getting to the point where they're going to need to do something like this for women's bodybuilding, because how do you compare a 5 foot, 4'9", 5 foot girl to a Andrea Shaw who's like 5'7", 5'8"? I mean, how do you do that? Because it's going to completely look different.
Amanda, what's your thoughts?
Well, I was going to ask your wonderful guest kind of what we were talking about this morning. How I've always blamed the judges for taking it to the extreme in especially in my division. I mean, and I think figure as well. It's like you can't even tell anybody apart anymore. But and I know, and I've always blamed the judges for that. But George, like I said this morning, I'm curious what your guest thinks about the point that I brought up about how does that possibly have something to do with the fans of those female divisions wanting the more mass, the more striations, the leanness, the size, the blah 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 blah, that they're not supposed to be rewarding in either figure or women's physique, but they are? And do you think that maybe that has something to do with them wanting to please the fans in order to keep the fans coming in and supporting from a monetary standpoint? Or, I mean, is that just a crazy thought?
No, I wouldn't say it's a crazy thought, but I don't think the fans have anything to do with it. I think the judges, I think the judges have a job to do, and I think that job is they have these rules. And Sandy has a video especially about women's physique, saying that how they didn't want women's striations and women's glute, but look at the champion. Her glutes are more striated than the. There's a problem when the women's physique champion has more striated glutes than the women's bodybuilding champion.
I agree.
So at the end of the day, you got to sit. We all, as competitors, got to sit back. It's like, where's the rule book? You sit here and say that. You publicly sit here and say this. And if there's a video, I don't know, Amanda, have you seen it yet, with Bob Chigarillo, who created women's physique, that I didn't know of, and him and Isabel talking about bringing down women's physique, but women's physique from the look at it now to dumbing it down a little bit. But how do you go backwards? When you only went forward. How do you do that? How do you then take the title away from Sarah? Because honestly, I thought the girl in third place should have been. That's what women's physique should look like.
That's Veronica Hinton. And here we have Helen Trevino, we have Julia Wetzel, we have Ava Manello. Ava is still young, I think, being 25. Her conditioning was not as that good, but still she has a good amount of size. I think Julia needs to work on a few things. And as we talk about this, Helen, she has, worked hard. She's come in great conditioning. But also, it's that age factor goes into as you develop and grow in conditioning and size.
Muscle maturity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that anybody that tries to say that doing Masters Nationals is the easier way to get your pro card doesn't understand.
Hello? Oh, Amanda? I think. Hello? Amanda? We lost her. So we got some comments in here, because I think she's getting her hair done. We got some comments in here. We got here my man Raheem says, "What's good, George? What's good, Keith? Thank you, brother.
What up, bro?
Yeah. Also got here my man, balls deep. He says, Schmo gang, 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 gang. Also, he says, what up and salute. Thank you, brother. Also, he says, Chicago in here. We just lost Amanda. She might come back later. I think she's doing something. Chicago in here. Also, we have here from him. He says, smash that like button. Thank you, brother. And also, we have here from a man, Lawrence Perkins. He says, good evening, everyone. Good evening, brother. And also, we have here from Lawrence. He says, you know, she will be right back. And there she is. So, thank you, Lawrence, for predicting that. Give me a second. We bring her in. So, what were we saying, Amanda? Because we lost you for a bit.
Well, you guys had mentioned.
What? We can't hear you. Amanda, we can't hear you. Hello? Amanda, we can't hear her. So, well, Keith, hello? Well, Keith, as you were saying earlier about, where we were talking about the most maturity factor.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Hella, when you're, here's the one thing I realized about being in a master class is that, when people say masters, depending what age it is, like I just seen the show that Bruce just did this weekend where he was fifth in classic physique, but then the guy who was 55 looked crazy. There's a thing called muscle maturity, which, some of these people who have been competing for a long time have that muscle maturity. So sometimes all that needs to be done is be refined. Like like Andrea. Andrea is not growing one way or another. She's just refining what she has. And that's all she has to do. Some
Come
girls,
on, man. Fuck.
huh?
What's wrong? Hello, Amanda? I think we might have lost connection. I think
Fuck,
something
man.
happened. What's wrong? Hello? Hey, Amanda, if you want to just go ahead and you feel like you need
Dude,
to,
fuck.
I might have to, wait a minute. She get it. Listen, says, keep losing you
Fuck.
guys. Uh,
Dude, come on.
well, I can hear you, Amanda, now.
Oh my fuck. You got to fuck.
Let me just put a mute for a figure, because, you know, I just want to say, okay. I think she's going through some issues right now. So, we'll
Technical
just go
difficulties.
ahead. Yeah, technical
Yeah, but
difficulties.
it's one of those things where, you know, it's finding the balance between the two. And again, it's when you're chasing after something, and I understand there's height disparities and size disparities, but again, at the end of the day, the muscle maturity, if I'm looking at a balance between the two, and again, at the end of the day, it boils down to, getting, like, when we talk to Sandy about Tina, let's just put it out there, and we says, what does she need to do? And basically, the package that she brought to Anaheim is what Sandy wanted to see from Tina. I mean, again, everybody can do something different. Tina has, long quads, so she can put a little bit more size on her quads. But other than that, that's not there's not much more that she needs to do. So it's getting to these judges like a Sandy and a Steve and a Tyler and saying, what are you asking from me as a competitor, or what do you want to see? So when you go on stage, if you bring, like, again, I use Samson. They told Samson more back density, better conditioning, and guess what? He did everything that these guys asked of him, and now he's a champion. Again, I will repeat. Sandy told Andrea, don't change much, come in the same, better conditioning clearly than the world championships, and she retained her title. So at the end of the day, all we can lean on is what the judges feedback. And I would say, you got some judges out there who I would listen to, and some judges out there that I wouldn't listen to. If I'm going to really want to keep it 100 and find out what I really need to bring to the table, I'm reaching out to Sandy, I'm reaching out to Steve, I'm reaching out to Tyler, I'm reaching out to Jim, probably Billy, some of the judges that I know is going to be 100 with me. Because that's all we got. That's all we got to understand, you know, you know, what to bring to the stage better than a bunch of judges sitting there telling us a bunch of bullshit, just gaslighting us when that's not really what we need to do. Hello? Hello?
All right, sorry. Yeah, I just mute myself. Oh, anyway, next lineup here we have here is Alina Oprah. Sorry, Sherry. I'm sorry, Aliva. Sorry, Lavinia Barros, Sherry Priami, and Alina Oprah. And those were really impressive. Sherry really she fell off from when she was fourth last year to eighth, and that was kind of surprising. Her condition was really good. And Lavinia, she really did pretty good, because when she competed back in 2022, I think she was like she was like 15th, 14th. And then, she goes up already to sixth. Alina Oprah's a new face. I think she still has that tendency that if she works on making improvements, she could crack the top 10.
And again, it's when you're looking at these girls. I mean, I thought this was a good lineup of girls. A few of them were hard on the eyes, but and other than that, it was a good lineup. And again, these girls need to quit thinking that, they need to quit overthinking it, and they need to go to Sandy, to Steve, and be like, what do I need? And that's the question that we need to know. Are you guys going to these judges and asking them, what do I need to bring into the show to get in the winner's circle? Like I said, prime example, Billy, when I was at North American, stood backstage with all the amateurs, and I don't, it was a whole bunch of them in North Americans, and I said, well, Billy, how do you know, especially at the amateur show, because there's so many of them? He says, I probably remember 90% of the faces that come up and talk to me. And I do this so that, because I'm getting busy, because it's hard for Steve and Sandy because they're traveling all over from show to show, doing all this other stuff to give people feedback. But if they're right there, then they can ask them the feedback. The question is, are these girls doing their due diligence and sitting there saying, okay, it's sitting there asking the judges, what do I need to do to be better? What do I need? What am I lacking? And what do I need to build off of? That's the question. And that's their job. And I used to be the person who got pissed off because my place wasn't there and walk out the building and didn't ask. But then I start reaching out, especially for Tina and especially for myself, like, what do I need to do to get into the winner's circle? And if you're not doing that, you're just chasing after something that you don't know what you're chasing after at the end of the day. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and again, we understand that show to show changes things because different judges, but again, it goes back to sitting there saying, if I have one thing that I would change about uh, our sport, it would be that I would have it'd be mandatory that if you're promoting a pro show and putting on a pro show, especially an Olympia qualifier, that these promoters get a set. They have to all go to Jim Mannion's gym or wherever, someplace in Pittsburgh, and have a symposium and sit in here and goes, okay, because at nationals they change rules for like height and weight, and go back and says, okay, for 2025, this is what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Yeah.
hold them to the cross if that's not what they're doing. And it has to be mandatory. If you got the money to put on a show, you got the money to fly your ass to Pittsburgh and sit with Tyler, Jim, Steve, Sandy, and whoever else they choose to have those powers to be to sit here and says, this is what we're looking for in 2025. Because
Mhm.
I remember there was a judge, I was a guy who promoted shows in England who held his judges, or he would go all over all his judges' scorecards, and he would like, well, why is your score different than this person? And have to explain himself. And if he couldn't, then he stopped judging them. Even when I was a test judge, when I became a judge, before I became a judge, I had a test judge. And if I was off from other people, I didn't become a judge until I was consistent. And I think that's the problem with these shows is there's no consistency for any of the categories for that matter. And so if you have this thing, like I said, the NFL does every year, Jerry Jones just said something like, well, you can come to the meeting with 32 other teams and have this conversation because things change in the NFL, things change in MLB, things change in NBA, things change in NHL. Why wouldn't they have it for such a worldwide sport as bodybuilding? Is it mainstream? No. But at the end of the day, if you're going to have all these athletes training their ass off, taking this risk of the things that we do, and then they come and ask you a question, but you don't have a true answer for them, that's a problem. And that's the problem that we're having in the sport is that everybody's chasing these pipe dreams like, oh, well, I think this is what they're looking for, or their coach is saying, this is what we're bringing in. And then they get there and it's not what they want. That's the problem in the sport. It's like there's no consistency. That's the biggest thing I see in this. In I love what Tyler Mannion is doing lately. Is like there's a video where he's like comparing Samson to Hadi, like shot for shot. This is why we judged it the way we did. This is what you. So I guess they are doing it, but again, or am I just watching it? Are you watching it? Are the promoters watching it? And all the other judges on that panel watching what Tyler's talking about? Or is just Tyler's just talking and certain people see it and certain people don't?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah,
I
and it
don't.
goes. Yeah, it goes back to how, like, Amanda mentioned earlier, how the judging is that they don't stick to the criteria like you're supposed to. Where you're seeing some women who should be placing in the right, places. Like if you got somebody who looks like they should be in the top five, and then they're like in the bottom 15 or in the 10th, but then you got somebody who looks like they're not should be in the top five, where they are too much gyrations, too much size, too much definition, and the rewarding those women it's not fair. And if they set the criteria, the IFBB, NPC, and the judges not follow that criteria, like I said again, why not just go ahead and have the whole get together and say, hey, we're having a problem. We're getting to the point that women's physique's getting close to where women's bodybuilding was when we pushed it out.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the same thing with women figure. I mean, you're looking at these some of these women figure girls and some of these women's classic physique or women's physique girls, and you're sitting there like, where's the line? And again, at the end of the day, that's the IFBB. They control our sport anyway. They control what they want. They're the judges. So at the end of the day, us as athletes have to say, like when Tyler comes out with these things, he's like, okay, for 2025, and maybe he does, a daily one that starts with men's bodybuilding, and this, and then go to women's bodybuilding, then go to down the line in every sport, and maybe it's a collaboration with Steve and Sandy, when they all sitting there talking about, okay, this is what we're gonna be looking for, and it's a video, and every fucking judge and every promoter has to watch it because okay, this is criteria, this is the rule. So when I go back and look at it, and I understand when they're looking at like they did it last year with Derek and Hade, and Samson, when I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, waistline, the poses, like when last year Tyler was going over the poses and this that, and other, then I get a better understanding of what I need to do as an athlete and a competitor to make my body better and what the judges are actually looking for. But if you don't do that as an athlete, men or women, it's kind of like, okay, what am I doing? I'm chasing my damn tail around in a circle, And so, and again, the problem that you have with that is that if Sandy sits there and says, well, we don't want to see any cross races on the women's glute, and then yet our champion is better conditioned than our women's bodybuilding champion, there lies the problem. And
Yeah.
so then but again, are they willing to fix it?
Yeah. We go back to this. We go back to this. I put this like this little slide also with women's physique because we I also cover that division. Is some of you guys are not a big fan of it, but these women, many of them will possibly even grow up to women's body. Like good example, we have Sarah Vilgas, uh, Anna Harris, and Susan Graham. And I look at these ladies, especially the condition. They have a smaller waist, they a little bit more lat development. I mean, one thing I think with Sarah, her quads are way bigger. And there's always somebody say that Sarah should have won this year. They should have went to Natalia, but that's always going to be debate. Where it's about what's more aesthetically fits within the guidelines of the division. But if you look now at these three women, they're like different. Like I said, this is like a cross section from the 18 women from the show. I got some more pictures here. Like Sarah, her conditioning was just crazy. She lost in 2022 to Natalia, but then she came back and win, and now she keeps the title for another year.
But again, at the end of the day, we're looking at this, and like I said, the Charisse is her name. The girl was third.
Sharonica.
Sharonica. If you're going based off of what Bob Sugarillo and Isabel said, that is what women's physique is supposed to be. Now, when you sit here and say, are these girls like when Julia went into women's physique? I remember again, I've had conversations with certain people in life, and she's like, certain body parts she just stopped training because she couldn't train them. Like your girl who went to wellness. What did she say? I had to stop training arms, and stop doing certain things. As we look at these girls, people say, well, why aren't they crossing over to women's bodybuilding? Because as we look at these girls stand on stage with other women's physique competitors, they look unbelievable. They look stellar. But you put them next to a bodybuilder, and they're going to look small. You put them next to an Andrea Shaw, Angela Yo, Christina Mendoza, those top five girls, Helena, they're going to look like little tiny minions. They may be better conditioning, but size-wise, they're not. They're going to be too small. That's the problem.
Yeah,
And
here we have a good example where, yes, it's about the size factor because they would look too small. Like you have Barbara Majan, Jody Munchuk, and you have here Marina Vegeki. And they are, I think, within the region of what women's physique is supposed to be. They're smaller, they're more conditions pretty good. I think with Maria, she has to really make some improvements because this is her first Olympia. And Jody's been competing for a long time. And with Barbara, she's been top four for the last four of her Olympias.
yeah, again, like I said, it's so hard. Even it's so hard as a competitor because like I said, as an amateur, I was a three-time runner-up, and I was always having to change something. And so that whole this judges use the words like comparing apples to oranges. So you're always chasing something because you never knew. Like one year I lost to Jason Huh. I had a great upper body. His legs were bigger than me because he was shorter than me. But so again, all these judges. It's funny when you look at the scorecards how they all agree on they're on the same page. But I know at judges' tables, being a judge, that we're never all on the same page. Some people like this, some people like that. Some people like the legs, some people like the upper body. Some people like the conditioning, some people like this. So it's they're never. It's like and Bob Shigarello said it best. Remember in that video, he says they should have a sheet of paper and be able to mark off these boxes versus just writing some shit down. Their aesthetics, their muscle densities, all these different things to check them off as judges, and then place them that way. Because then there's accountability of okay, this is what the criteria is, and this is what the IBB should do. It's not that complicated to sit there and give these judges people a piece of paper per category per class and says this is what we're looking for in these classes. So, as you're judging these classes, whether it's physique, bodybuilding, etc., you're checking off the boxes. You're checking off the boxes. Okay, this girl had this better than this girl. So, Andrea had better muscle density than Angela Yo. Angela Yo had better conditioning. let's say Andrea had better presentation. All these things, when you, like Bob said in that video, if you have that, it then makes sense. It makes sense. But if you just got judges giving this their opinion versus, like, it's not hard for the IFBB at the end of this season, because we're at the end of the season and then 2025 starts up, to sit here and say, okay, we're going to make a sheet per category for the NPC because it's the same, and for the IFBB because they're the same classes, because people try to turn pro, and give these to these judges. Because, like, usually, like, I can tell you, when I'm at a show, I get an envelope of the athletes and their numbers and a pencil, versus, and then I got a sheet of paper, because then I'm trying to figure out what place I want one person to be in and who I want to see in this and another. I said, so if I get a sheet of paper that says, okay, this is what we're drawing and this is what we're looking for. Conditioning, size, blah, 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 this, that, and other. And I can check off the boxes. Well, Christina had better than Angela. Angela had better than this. Andrea had better than this. And I can check off the boxes. That gives me a better idea of what I'm looking for. And it's a better idea of judging, because I know what the IFBB and the NPC are asking from me as a judge. And that's not what's happening. What's happening is you got all these judges with their opinions of what they like and what they don't like. And then that lies the problem. Like Amanda said it, she's like, is it the fans? I think to a certain degree, like, you know, the Olympia has the fan award now that people vote on the set. But at the end of the day, I don't really think that the IFBB gives a shit about the fan. You know, I mean, they do because they buy the tickets, but from the standpoint of their opinion on what they think they want to see versus what the IFBB want to see, I don't think they care, in my opinion. And so if you do that checkbox deal where you got these, like Bob said, and you have to, every class has different criteria, because they all should. We shouldn't have the same criteria. It's like I was telling somebody, a classic physique guy shouldn't be able to cross over to bodybuilding. And I lost to a classic physique guy at my Legion show, who was a little tiny dude who crossed over from Masters Classic Physique to bodybuilding. And I go, how the fuck did this happen? You can't be a classic physique guy and a bodybuilder, and I'm 50 pounds heavier than you, and you beat me? They're two different looks, but it happens.
Yeah. Well, here we have a man here, physique fan one, aka art of female muscle, aka my man Jeremy. Welcome, brother. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
What's up, Jeremy?
How's the job now? You used to days?
Jeez. I've seen more sunshine in the last 2 weeks than I've seen in the last 12 years. So, and I'm also having the joys and pleasures of dealing with people again, which is pretty damn well miserable, especially traffic. When you're having to basically contain yourself from saying, "Stop being idiots." So
anyway, if you would, he's been listening to our critique, and as we talk about how it seems like the debate is always going to be about size conditioning and judging and placing these athletes. And some of these women, as I mentioned again, to my opinion, like I said again, I'm not an expert. I'm a fan. I often feel like sometimes they hit and miss with it. And I don't put it from my man Jeremy. Like we're going back here again. Like one point, it's like one lady, I got an interview coming up with her in a few days. That's Marika Jones. Now Marika, this is a cross section with her, Natalie Wolf and Ann Gruber. Now Ann Gruber looked pretty impressive. She was, I think, 12th at the show. Marika got 7th, and Natalie got 8th. That's women physique. These women could possibly, and y'all give me your thoughts. Could they possibly go up to women's bodybuilding?
No.
Natalie, at one time when she started out, she was in bodybuilding. Yeah, she downsized to women's physique, so she's already been in bodybuilding, but she didn't want to pack on the size necessary to be able to do that. So she felt that women's physique was a better fit.
The girl in the middle, wasn't that the girl who was a figure at the Toronto?
No. Natalie's always either been women's bodybuilding or women's physique.
That's Manon DeLilly. That's the one who was that was who did Toronto. She did both. She did like she got qualification in Vancouver. Then she did like 5 more shows in figure, and then she did 2 more shows in women's physique.
She is now, but she's now permanently in women's physique. She was, it wasn't just an experiment for her. She's like now there for good because apparently they told her. Apparently the judges told her that you had the size necessary. She had the size necessary to do it, so she decided to make that change.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, George, the biggest thing is when you're looking at these girls, and as a judge, is like they they fit right where they are now, women's physique. Because if you put them next to any of those body, like Christina Mendoza, Andrea Shaw, Andrea Yo, and all this other stuff, the muscle density and the size, they're going to be overwhelmed by it going to women's bodybuilding. That means that they got it, like, especially in the legs. I mean, I feel that that these girls in women's physique conditioning is better than the women bodybuilder. Just like I feel like, some of the classics. If somebody asked the question, could Chris Bumstead go to women? Like I think they asked Kevin LeBron. He was at like the expo and like he's like, of course he could, and he would win. And I'm like, are you fucking nuts? No, he wouldn't. Because Chris Bumstead is size. Which people understand the size thing is a big deal. And so when you're standing next to like classic physique guys, I think are better conditioning than men's open bodybuilding by far. Just like I look at women's physique is better conditioned than women's bodybuilding because of the size differential. And so when you're looking at these women, you're like, well, they could go. I'm like, no, because there's the muscle density and the size and things like that, is just way different. It looks good when they're standing next to the other girls that they compete against. But if you put a picture of her one of those girls standing next to Angela Yo or Andrea Shaw or Christina Mendoza or Helena, you're like, yeah, no, they're in the right category.
Yeah, that's a good part because that's true. Because some people would think, oh, we see them on the stage, that's one thing, but we put them alongside each other, that's a different stuff. We have here from a man. Shout out to my brother, Execution 23 says salute George and panel in chats. Thank you, brother. Also, this is from War 2000. I watched Candyman, The Ring, and Saw. Crazy, yo. And also, he says Marika Jones is so beautiful. Yeah, I get to talk to Marika again this coming Friday. Come join me on Friday. We get to talk to Marika. Also, he says Natty Wolf looks amazing. He does. Also got a chance to talk with her. Hope maybe I can get her back on again. I know she shot to Natalie. She said her and her husband were a little bit under the weather after that show, so I hope they do well. And if we were talking about earlier about how the figure division, where you get to the point where the divisions are just the level of it is just like City's retired, and just Grace Media just did a show this weekend. It was in Florida. It was the Hurricane Pro. And there's also another person I want to deal side by side. I'm pulling this picture here. That's her and Missy Trescott. Could Missy, if it wasn't for if the knee injury got to a point where she can't do fitness anymore, couldn't Missy do figure? Where the fitness girls are looking.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
I mean, she's got so much muscle on her. She may be able to do women's physique if she put on a little more size. I mean, but she definitely could do figure. Yeah. She very much could do figure.
But here's the thing, Joe. I go back to this. I go back to what your girl Jada said a few podcasts ago, and she said the reason why she moved from, she went from women's physique to women's bodybuilding, then moved back to women's bodybuilding now in wellness, because it was hard on her because of the different things that you have to do in order to be in that category. And we're talking about gear. So, and a lot of women just don't want to do that, and I understand. So there's elements to to this because it's not it's a precursor to what we do in this sport, but like Jada said, it was just hard on her body, so she just had to back off, and that's why she moved divisions. So that it's a personal preference. Could she? Absolutely. Does she want to do some of the other necessary things to put on the size and this and other? I guess you would have to ask her that question. But again, when you looked at Sid was so balanced. She wasn't like too big or too small. She just was balanced. She understood the consistency, like Andrea understands the consistency of what she had to bring in to maintain her title. And all these other girls, when I look at them and you look at Sid, it's like, are they bigger than Sid? Absolutely. But again, Sid understood and like you said, she could have probably won 10 if she wanted to, because she understood who she was and what she needed to bring in, because she is the marker for what women's figure is. When you win 8 titles, 6, 5, 4, whatever, you are the marker for what the division is now. And she understood that. And so all these other girls, as they put on all this size and I'm like, what are you doing? If I'm looking at Sid, I'm like, I need to be somewhere around that look or in that balance, and like Andrea Shaw. And I told people, I said, and we talked about this when Angela Yo beat her, I said, she just wasn't as conditioned as she was before. And she went back and understood what she needed to bring to the table, because when Sandy Williamson is her head judge and saying, this is what you need to bring to the table in order to retain your title, that's what she did. Just again, like I said, when they told Samson last year, who was third, Samson, you're the future of this division, which everybody's saying, with his aesthetics, his personality, his look, and everything else. And he went back to the drawing board with his wife and said, okay, we got to bring in more density in the back. We got to be a little bit drier. We got to do the things that they said. And he brought all that shit to the table and he became the champion. So at the end of the day, listening to Steve and listening to, even it happened with Sean Roden when he was here. Him and Psycho Fitness had to sit back and sit down with Tyler and Steve and all those guys. And he even said it when he won that title and beat Phil. And Phil, I think, was at I think it was the 7th one. He knew that he had beat him because they're like, hey, come up sit here with us at the Olympia. They invited him to come sit with them at the finals because they knew he had beat Phil, because they had to do their homework. It's called doing your homework. And doing your homework is looking at the person in front of you who you want to be and sit there and says, okay, what's the game plan to either get close enough to him? Because like Tyler said in the video last year, remember he said, you don't have to knock out the champ. You just have to be better than the champ that day. And that was coming out of the vice president of the IFBB's mouth. So at the end of the day, these athletes, including myself, and I even know what my game plan is for 2025. Me and Melanie's talk about what her and Tina's game plan is, and I've talked about what my game plan is, and you stick to that game plan to be better for the next year. That's all you can do as an athlete. So I mean, these people sitting here and look at these girls and talk about moving divisions and things like that. I just remember Jada on your podcast one day saying it's sometimes, like, when she moved up to bodybuilding, it was just hard on her body, and she just didn't want to do that to her body, so that's why she moved back, and then she finally moved to the wellness. So it's all a matter of choice for us athletes.
Yeah, because you want to find a division that works for you. That's why you're seeing some more women switching from figure to going over to wellness. You see, even physique competitors go over to wellness, but you're seeing some women who are maybe they're too small for those divisions, and that's the purpose of these divisions for those women that have those high level aesthetics. You're seeing figure competitors moving up because the fact is they're maybe too big for figure. You're seeing physique because they're too big for physique. It's about the evolution of the athlete and how you go. So much of they do get the critique from the judges, and the judges will see something that maybe, like I said, I'm not an expert. I'm a fan. You're a judge. You might see something in an athlete that, there's no point in you keeping yourself here because you're growing beyond that division.
Well, and here's the problem. So I remember judging a show in Springfield for Chad and Chris, and it was a particular girl who had won bikini the year before and then went in a figure. And you can tell she had started powerlifting. And Caroline, I remember her name specifically. And she came up to me afterwards, and her and her boyfriend came up to me, and I said, you have a decision to make. You either want to be a figure competitor or bikini. I said, but you can't do powerlifting because it's blowing out your waistline. Because I'm like, you look completely different than last year. The problem with some of these athletes is they don't want to hear what the hell we have to say. I'm like, then don't come up to me for my fucking feedback. Because I am one of those guys and one of those judges who have gotten smoke blown to my ass so much as an amateur, as a national level competitor, and as a pro that I'm always going to keep it 100 with you. But some of these athletes don't want to hear that shit. At the end of the day, we noticed Maya made a great move when Ashley made a great move last year. Angela Yo made a move. I think Teresa one time. Even hell, Andrea Shaw at one time was a women's physique competitor. But they all understood that they had to move, and that they moved, and it was the right move for all those girls we just mentioned. It was the right move for them, because again, I'll use Maya. I remember when I first met Maya, and you would think it was the New York Pro via Tampa, and she was dead last in Louisiana, and then she came to the New York Pro and won it, and looked amazing, So again, somebody had to tell her something, just like somebody took, like I think Andrea Shaw is the one who told Angela Yo, "Hey, you'll probably be," and she told Ashley Jones, "You'll probably be a better women's bodybuilder than a women's physique competitor." And maybe because she's in the sport, they probably listen to her more than some other people. But clearly, it was the right move for all those girls, Angela Yo and Maya and Ashley Jones, to move to a different class. Because again, here's the problem: if you're those girls that you see women's physique, if they're placing like in the bottom pot, and they look, and like Maya looked phenomenal, and Ashley looked phenomenal, and Angela looked phenomenal, but they're placing in the bottom of the women's physique class, then that's the writing's kind of on the wall. Like Tina, she when she was amateur, she would go to North Americans and she would go to nationals, and she would be like second or third. And I'm like looking at girls who were crossing over from figure to women's physique, and it was beating her. And I'm scratching my head. I'm like, what are we missing? That's because she was a women's bodybuilder. So when she went to women's bodybuilding, the first show, which was Wings of Strength Miss International, she turned pro. So clearly, she didn't think she was big enough, and probably this is some of these other girls' issue. Tina didn't think she was big enough to compete with these bodybuilding girls that she was seeing. She's like, I'm just not big enough. I'm just not big enough. And she started to figure, went from figure to women's physique, and then the first Miss International she did, she turned pro. So maybe that's kind of the issue. I don't know. I'm just throwing darts at a damn board right now. But maybe that's the issue. A lot of these girls who don't want to move over and cross over. Maybe.
Yeah, I think most of them want to feel like they want to stay in a division where they're okay. I don't want to go to women's body because I don't want. I be less feminine. But the thing is that again, as you grow and evolve as an athlete, you have to go where the best place you fit in. We have a comment from a man, Warrior 2000. He says, "Hey Keith, the truth is the truth, and when you give these athletes feedback on how they can improve and what not to do at the end of the day, you're one of the judges and you know what's best regardless." And that's the thing. But some people sometimes, I know, I remember, I saw one lady who competed at the Olympia, Anna Harris. He said she'll keep the critiques from the judges. That's your choice. I respect that. But I don't think she was even in the top 10 maybe at that show at the Olympia. And then she did 2 shows back to back, won those 2 shows. Then she did Texas and she got 8th place. So there's something that you might need to know that judges might tell you, like maybe stop at a certain point and focus on the Olympia. Like I said, I follow Female Bodybuilding Channel, and they were in Sweden because it was a regional show and a pro qualifier. And I saw this young girl on here. I'll pull up a picture, and this girl is 23 years old, and she is competing in figure. And I'm looking at this girl, and this is where again, this is how we talk about how this is figure. And you say to yourself, the judging criteria for this is in Europe. And I don't know, this girl, just says she's still young, 23, maybe another year or 2, she can probably go to physique. But I don't know. I think she can. I don't know. She might just be double dipping this year.
Yeah, from what I've seen, Europeans love muscle. Like there was one time when we went to when they still had the Miss International. This was back quite a while ago. I think it was like 2008, 2009. and I was sitting there, a couple friends, and we saw the figure division come out, and then there are these two girls from Italy, and I was like, oh my god, these girls. I mean, for the look of the time, they could go into bodybuilding because I don't think women's physique was around at that time. But I was looking at these girls, and it was the same thing. It was like, why are you in figure? It's like, are you sure you're in the right? Seriously, we looked at each other, and it's like, are these girls in the right division? Do they know it's figure? Is there like a language problem here? But yeah, it's like Europeans love muscle,
Oh
and their
yeah.
look is very different
Oh yeah.
than the sort of thing that we have here. So,
Yeah.
but a couple other things I wanted to say, Keith, you're absolutely right. I've learned this in my life. 99 times out of 100, when people come up to you and say, "Hey, what do you think? What do you think? What is your opinion?" They don't mean that. They
Yeah.
don't. What they're really saying is they don't. When they say, "What do you think?" They don't care what you think. They want to hear what they think coming out of your mouth. They
Exactly.
they want they want to be reinforced with everything that they claim to believe. They want to be reinforced and say, "Oh well, I'm right about everything that I think," and they don't want to be told that they're wrong.
Exactly.
People don't. A lot of people can't handle being told that they're wrong, and it's the same thing here. It's like I was curious to see what you thought about this, Keith, as a judge. I've heard a lot of pros mention something along these lines. And they've said, you may want to be that, you may want to be in this particular division, or you may want to be this. Your body, not you, ultimately dictates your division
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
because of your structure. Like for instance, question of figure versus bikini. This was something Wendy Portino brought up, and she said, if you've got those long shoulders, if you've got long shoulder bones that result in a naturally occurring nice looking V taper, then you are not a bikini competitor or a wellness competitor.
No.
You're figuring up because
Yep.
your body naturally, your natural body is basically telling you, hey, you're figure and up, not wellness and down.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
because and then they said, but if your shoulders are so small that they actually fit in your waistline, then yeah, bikini or wellness is what you're looking at, and you shouldn't be looking at figure.
Well, and the
So it's
funny
like
thing that you
a
go,
lot
go
of
ahead,
times,
please.
that's what I've heard several pros say is that yeah, you may want to be this, you may want to be in this division, your heart may be set on it, but it comes down to what your body is telling you. And
Well, it's funny that you
what's
say
your
that.
bone structure? How
Yes.
easily do you put on muscle? How quickly do you do it? I mean, all that's got to be taken into consideration too.
You know, Charles Glass once told me that a long time ago when I told this story to somebody yesterday. You know, when I first got into the sport and really didn't know much about it, I was like, you know, I seen him and I didn't really know who Charles Glass was and didn't know that he was a godfather of bodybuilding. We were sitting in Miami and, you know, people were walking by and I was like, man, he was having a conversation. He's like, so what do you want to do in the sport? I'm like, I want to be like Phil Heath. And Charles like, why? And this is the question he asked me. He's like, why? And this is when Phil Heath just started his pro career. And I was like, you know, it's Phil Heath and, you know, he's done this and that. He's like, Keith, he goes, bone density matters. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, look at your tiny little joints on your wrist. Look at your tiny little joints on your ankles. And that's what people like when you see Samson Dua and you see people like, you know, Andrew Jack and you see people like Quentin and you see people with these tiny joints, we have more room to grow. When you see like a Hadi Cooper or you know, and some of these people like you know, Derek Langford, because they got these large big joints or these big bones, they only and Phil as well, they only have so much room to grow. And so these are the things that, you know, like again, when you start looking at girls who stop like Andrea stopped powerlifting, Angela Yo stopped powerlifting because when you keep doing that, it blows out your waistline. So there are people who don't understand that there's certain things. And I remember being at a show with Tina and there was this black girl, and it was an amateur show here in Kansas City I was judging. And we had this argument, this big battle about this black girl who everybody thought she did bikini, but everybody thought she should have been in figure. And I said the problem was she was not hard enough to be a figure girl. If she had came in better condition, easily would have won figure. But they didn't have wellness at the time. She was a more athletic build and was more bikini, so we placed her in first place. Now we got hell over this shit. But again, at the time, they didn't have wellness. So it's like She's not hard enough to be a figure girl. She has a balance of a bikini girl, maybe a little too much muscle, but not enough muscle to be a figure girl and not hard enough. But people don't understand that. And so you try to explain to them, what lane they should be in, and either they take it for what it's worth or they don't take it for what it's worth. And Maya, Angela Yo, Ashley Jones are all prime examples of girls who sit there and says, "Why? I know I'm in great shape. Why?" And Tina, why am I not placing in women's in women's physique? That's because you're too goddamn big. You got too much muscle. So when they went to women's bodybuilding, guess what? Maya went to her first pro show, smashed it, won it. Angela Yo won it. Ashley Jones, guess what? Last year, first pro show, New York Pro, won it. So again, at the end of the day, you got to look back and says, you got to look around yourself and look yourself in the mirror sometime as a person and be like, why am I know I'm in great shape. Why am I not placing? Maybe because that's just not your lane. So even some of these figure girls, and some of these figure girls, like you just said, like they could easily walk over into women's physique and like the two girls we just seen and do well and just build off of that. But again, are they comfortable? And I remember when Tina turned pro at Miss International, and a pro physique girl came up to a women's physique girl, goes, "Why are you doing women's bodybuilding?" And Tina's like, because it's the right category for me. And so it's funny how, like, and I said this on one of my events yesterday, how women are so fucking catty with one another in the pros, like, especially women's physique and women's bodybuilding, how they're so catty, how like, some people think that women's bodybuilding is ugly compared to women's physique. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. You guys are more conditioned than women's bodybuilding. So how is that possible? But that's what these girls in women's physique are thinking. And a particular person that me and George don't mention on his show looked at Alina and Linda Murray, and I was sitting there at the Omaha Pro when they said, you're really not a physique competitor, women's physique competitor anymore. You should go over to bodybuilding. And her exact words was, I want to stay pretty. And Alina and Linda, who are two of the most gorgeous bodybuilders to ever hit the stage, looked at her and go, then who the fuck are we? And they were giving her advice as two of the top pro women bodybuilders to ever hit the stage. Told her, and that's what she said to him. Well, I still want to be pretty, so that's why I don't want to move over to women's bodybuilding. I'm like, what? I'm like,
well, first of all, 99% of the planet thinks this whole thing is ugly.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what your division. We look at that and we would find this to be a beautiful thing. But everybody, I have seen girls. Geez, who comes to mind immediately? They're girls that like, it's like as feminine as you can get, but because they have a little bit of muscle, and I mean a little bit of muscle, or they're flexing their biceps or something and say, "Stop looking like a man." Are you fucking kidding me?
Exactly.
It's like,
it's not just like I said. Even bikini girls get picked on for that.
sure.
And most of them, it's just because people don't like the idea. If you even just like I do interviews with women in mixed martial arts and MMA, those women have muscle not as a level as a bodybuilder, but still because they have any kind of muscle, anything, especially it offends the men's sensibility of what a woman should be. I got a comment here.
Oh, go ahead.
Wait a minute. Got a comment here from Warrior says she's flexing like a WPD girl. The beautiful muscle on her is impressive. Also, this is from Warrior. He says these athletes won't want to hear what they want to hear positively, not the honest truth from an opinion of a judge. You're right, Jeremy. Shout out to you. He says, and also he says they get their feelings hurt if you tell them the honest truth from the perspective of as a judge. Also, we have here from a man, Stefan Prey. He says Christina Mendoza is feminine and gorgeous. I'll give him that. I mean, yeah. And
here's the thing. I always tell people, tell me what I hear, not what I need to know. And people, and they don't want to hear that. Hey, but here's an off subject. Here's so I don't know if any of you guys, if you haven't, you got to go watch it. There's a movie that I've seen on HBO this weekend, and I don't even know. I just kind of stumbled upon it called Lies, Love, and Bleeding, and it's about a
Yeah.
female
Oh,
body.
love lies bleeding. Yeah, that's
Bleeding.
Yeah,
what it's
have you seen
called.
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, yeah.
It's
I.
crazy.
It is. I mean, it's
It is.
like
I bought it.
Yeah,
I looked at that. I was like, okay, what?
yeah,
Because it's like up to like the very last sequence where
yeah,
it's like she literally goes all She-Hulk.
yeah.
I
She
don't
grows.
like that,
Right.
and I'm like, the hell am I watching? I was
Yeah,
It's
watching
like
something that
a
was like
muscle.
there was like 70s, 80s bodybuilding, but it turned into this.
It's
What
like a muscle
the hell is
fantasy.
going on here?
It's like a muscle
yeah.
fantasy type thing.
This
It's
chick
like
got
stuff that you
skinny.
would see in the comics.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
because
she
Like
would
they,
get mad and her muscles would just start popping and shit. It was the craziest shit ever. I'm like, it
yeah,
was.
because I know a lady, a friend of mine, Monica Perez. She has a part in that movie. She has like she's in the background. She says they have to hide her tattoos because back then you didn't have a lot of women with the tattoos she had back in the
Yeah,
'80s. Here
it
we
was
got here
crazy.
from
I watched it. I was like, wow, this shit is wild.
also we got here from
yeah,
my man Raheem Hamilton. Not to get off topic track, I would like to get input from Keith. I left weights and I would like to get
lift
in
weights.
condition. Lift weights, okay. You said I like to get in condition for a bodybuilder. I mean, yeah, I need to wear some glasses, folks. I need to get my eyes on
Raheem,
those.
I like I tell everybody when it comes to our sport, it's 80% of my clients that I deal with is all diet. It's what you put in your mouth. Abs are made in the kitchen. So it's funny that people just had this conversation again with somebody yesterday who sit there and says, and we've had this conversation on George podcast about drugs and gear, and I tell people that's a precursor of what goes on in our sport, but it's not the main thing. The diet is the main thing. The training, the cardio, all the other shit that you have to do is the biggest part of what we're doing in the sport. My diet is everything. Then everything else falls into place. So if your diet's on point, Raheem, you're good to go. But the diet is the main thing as a bodybuilder that you have to focus on. And nobody, Ronnie Coleman said the best in the video when he's in this police car back in the day. Nobody want to eat all this goddamn chicken, all this rice, all this shit. Nobody want to eat all this shit. Everybody want to be a bodybuilder, but nobody want to eat all this food and all this bullshit that I got to eat. And that's the honest. And he's being honest. Nobody wants to eat fucking fish and chicken and the things that we do. As much as we have to do it. So it's crazy. So yeah, diet, brother, diet.
How
Hit me
many
up.
times do you eat?
I'll help you out.
But go ahead.
Oh.
Wait,
No, I
say
was
I didn't hear
asking
you.
him. I thought he heard me. No, I said I
Uh-uh.
thought he heard me. I said how many? I was going to ask him. I was asking him how many times do you eat? Like six
I eat 6
times?
to 7 times a day. Right now I'm sitting at
Oh.
about 275, 280. So we'll get up to about 290, and then we'll diet down to about 275 for next year. So yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
What
that is
kind
more
of
important
food you
about
give up?
what
Like
kind of food do I eat?
like kind of like you give up like would you stop eating for like a show?
I kind of stick to the same diet, but like I give up I don't know because I'm not really a overindulger or anything. Like today I had 2 McDoubles, but I did. I had 2 McDoubles and some barbecue buffalo wings, and after I got home from the gym. But I have my protein drink. But but then I'll go back, like lately I don't know. I've been on this tuna fish deal for some reason, so it's kind of like I eat a lot of beef,
hate
I
tuna
don't know,
fish.
so I'm like not, I grew up a poor kid, not probably eating one or twice a day. So I'm not an overindulger in sugars or nothing, and things like that. I just, right now I'm not on a specific diet. Mel's drawing that up tonight actually, so I'll probably get it, in the next couple of days, and then the off season diet starts. So I just kind of stick to the beefs, the rice, the potatoes, my eggs and things like that for right now. Just to put on good lean muscle mass. But
So,
I'm not, my biggest thing is sushi. So I eat a lot of sushi.
I was going to say, Keith, you said that you had some boneless buffalo wings. How many buckets?
No, I know. So I had so my bar, so the bar I own, we have great buffalo wings. So Tina's like, you want something before we close the kitchen? So I ordered 15. I had half last night, and then I had half today. So
Okay, all right.
I
So
split it up. But they're really,
so it's not like it's not like those 60 wing orders or anything like that.
and it was bad last night. So I have a thing called Sunday Funday at my bar. So I have a bowling alley as well. So I have from 10 to 1 o'clock. You can come in and all you can bowl from 7 to 1 o'clock in the morning. So I was driving home. I'm like, man, I really want a burger. And so I stopped at McDonald's. I got 4 McDoubles because you buy one get one free. And I had a fry and I had 2 pies. But I only ate 2 of the burgers last night. I ate the fries, but then I have the other 2 burgers today. So I kind of spread it out a little.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like I know.
I was gonna say some boneless buffalo wings will vary from person to person to person.
Oh,
So depending on how good they are,
I prefer
that bar are really good. So
I prefer the barbecue chicken wings. I prefer those or the lemon pepper.
Yeah, I like them. I like those.
Yeah,
chicken.
Yeah,
chicken.
right.
You know, it's that
Yeah, they got the chicken mac, the big the Big Mac, the chicken. Yeah, it's all right.
Is it pretty good?
When I ate it the first time, it was decent. It was good, but then I ate it the second time. It was like it's okay because I don't eat McDonald's too much like that. I just don't.
I don't, like I said, I don't eat too much of the stuff. Like every now and then, like one day, me and my sister were out. We stopped by Hardee's, and I got a hot ham and cheese and a hot dog with chili and fries, and then it had some tea. You know, I ate the hot dog for like when I got home, and then I ate the cheese, the ham and cheese later. But I ate the fries. When you eat fries, you got to eat them when they're hot.
You got to eat them fresh. You can't eat them cold.
You can't reheat fries. You don't eat them when they're cold. Fries seem like it's the only type of food you can't reheat. You got
you can't.
Yeah,
because they'll go hard, and you put them in the microwave, and they're still hard.
Yeah.
I think I'm throwing them in the air fryer one day, but then it just be the same thing. Well, folks, here's a great conversation we're having. But as you know, I have people that always reach out to me and show me stuff. I have as you know, one of my monikers is I'm Jon Snow. I'm Lord of the Wall, Master of Winterfell. And sometimes I have ravens send me little messages. And every now and then I get something. And me and Key were talking about something earlier. We might even talk about that other thing we talked about before we got on live for next week's talk. But
coaches.
Coaches. We'll talk about that. But here's a lady who's been in sport for a long time. I was a fan of hers back in the day. Great physique, amazing woman. That is one Miss Betty Pariso. And Betty, she decided to do something. She made a move. So here she is with her and her husband, Ed.
Today, Ed and I are announcing that we are ending our 30-year affiliation with the NPC and the IFBB. We will no longer promote our events through the NPC and the IFBB. We love this sport and we love what we do. We have put over 50,000 competitors across our stages, and for 30 plus years, our names and our productions have been associated with integrity and strong ethics. So we are excited today to announce that we have created the World Beachbody Federation.
Betty and I created the WBBF for the thousands of athletes that feel like what is winning is extreme in every division. We want the best to win, not just the hardest or the biggest. The sport for us is an art form, and we want the most beautiful physiques in the world on our stages.
We have 6 basic divisions. For the women, we have beach bikini, fit bikini, and athletic bikini. And for the men, we have beach physique, fit physique, and athletic physique.
If you are a promoter, a pro, an influencer, a gym owner, or a supplement company and would like to put on a show, contact us at wbbfederation.com.
So here's my thought on this. And Betty Pariso, she changed the sport when she came in. She changed her look because I remember somebody telling me how when she was competing in women's bodybuilding, she wasn't doing so well. She wasn't scoring so well. So she made some changes. And with those changes, she started placing better. If any of you remember Betty Pariso back in the day, Betty was a beast. She was huge. She had her muscle quality was just at a certain level that was just undeniable. And it's just now it's kind of like what happened years ago when with the situation. She used to have women's bodybuilding and women's physique at her shows. She used to, but then all suddenly she dropped those. She dropped those divisions. And I remember somebody telling me a story years ago when she had a show called the Europa Championship. It was a pretty good show. It was one of those. It was a pretty good show, especially like
the
you had the
Orlando Pro.
Yeah, and then there was a situation that happened. A lady I know told me about the situation where Betty told ladies, "Hey, we might have to do a little dance or something." But then, one of the ladies she was dancing in the aisles, but then the girlfriend of a guy had a problem with it, and then they're complaining about certain things, and then Betty went and she told Beth Francis about it, and then Beth Francis kicked women's bodybuilding from the New York Pro. And you remember one thing Betty was pretty famous was she used to do the most muscular. If anybody remember that pose, that's the most muscular, the crab pose. She used to do it in her routines because it helped her score and place better in the shows. And like I said, Betty's no small woman. She's like 5'7". She was just huge. And she was been competing for at least 20 years, 30 years before she retired. Ed is I think her second husband because she got married to somebody else before him, and then they got divorced. And she married Ed, and we married him again. But this is my thing about this. I understand you want to start a new federation because you don't like the way bodybuilding is going, but you have a voice. You can really say something. But you did this. You pushed out women's bodybuilding, women's physique from your shows. I was talking to one lady who told me that her coach and friend told her that she was going to think about doing one of her shows. And he said, "Don't do her shows. I don't like her shows. Yeah. I'm gonna keep her name confident and her friend's name confident." But it's just sad. And I understand that but here again, you're the one of the people that changed the sport. And you could have, whatever division, I understand you want to do, but even in that new division you're gonna start, some of the competitors, she didn't say it was gonna be natural, did she?
No.
No, I didn't hear her say that. I was gonna ask, is this natural or but good thing
here lies the problem, guys. You know who tried to do this shit last and failed? Lee Thompson.
Right.
Remember when Lee Thompson put the IFBB on blast?
The Inspire Sports League was what it was supposed to be called.
Yes, and the problem with that was Lee put, the funny thing is dude went into ministry, but the funny thing about this guy is like he was one of the guys that they were talking about, like women were coming in and out of his room and they were posing for him naked in Florida. Because I remember I did her show in the Orlando Pro back in the day, like years ago. And the problem when you do something like this, it's like you have the NFL and you have the CFL. You're never going. Well, I guess the bigger problem, you can't compete with IFBB. For one, you can't in the NPC. Two, the problem with this is because remember Paul Gillette started that federation over in Canada.
WBFF, yeah.
Yeah, and the problem was some athletes that chose to cross over and then come back got blackballed. So we've watched athletes the last few years make appearances at other shows. Remember the one guy from Europe went over and got suspended. They took his Olympic qualification away.
I think it was Lee Priest.
No, it wasn't Lee Priest.
This guy, I think year before last. We talked about before.
Oh, just recently. Okay.
Yeah. Recently, but I've been told I have natural competitors doing the NAMBF shows. Like, just make sure they don't take your picture at the show because the IFBB, which is stupid as hell. Because I'm like, how the hell do I make a living if I don't train people? Because I train natty and I train open or NPC competitors, but I was literally told, hey, make sure nobody takes your picture at this show because the IFBB and the NPC looks down upon that. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, but again, I know, God, and it was back in the day. It was one girl and a couple guys. Sean, he beat me at junior nationals one year. They went over to that Paul Dillette Federation, and they tried to come back over here. It was a high climb up the mountain. So again, at the end of the day, if you're not in the NPC in the IFBB, I suppose you can do this because they have that OBC Federation as well over here. But again, the NAMBF. But like you said, George, that's interesting that she didn't say if it was natural or not. So that'd be interesting to know. But a lot of athletes are just not willing to take that chance because a lot of them don't understand the repercussions of doing something like that. To come back to the NPC or especially the IFBB if you're a pro, is they don't. The IFBB, they don't, especially what she just did, they definitely ain't gonna stand for that shit, so it's I mean,
yeah, because remember back in the day,
Yeah, there's a lot of politics with this, man.
You have no idea.
It be a politics in it.
You have
remember
no
back in the
idea.
day.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, I didn't know it was that deep. Like, because she make like a new. It is what it is. I mean, I just like the women with the muscles. That's it.
I thought he was going to get murdered because he did. Remember, I don't know if you guys remember, he did like a 2-hour like video, like putting like Jermaine, everybody on blast.
Now that was Lee Thompson you're talking about?
Yeah, and he
I remember seeing that.
And he was one of the dirtiest motherfuckers out there. I mean, it was crazy. And he had moved up the rankings. He basically, here's the thing: what happened? When he moved out of that spot, Tyler moved into that spot. So, because he was like, I remember I told you guys our last podcast when I walked out on stage and Steve Kukos beat me from Texas at USA's. Lee Thompson's sitting right next to Jim Mannion, and I knew I had lost already because I knew their friendship. I knew Steve was Lee Thompson was the representative from Texas. I already knew I lost. I knew I came in second because I mean, so KL, when you say politics, it's crazy. Because I knew, I looked out the stage and I seen him sit next to Jim Mannion at the judges' table. I'm like, I'm fucked. I'm coming in second because I just knew. So that's how much politics play in this. But he literally put everybody on blast. I was like, this dude's still alive because he had put out a lot of dirty laundry.
There was there was also guy by the name of
talking about Jack Tatone's wife, how Jack was sending pictures of Ann Tatone to all these judges naked and shit. Yeah, it was crazy.
Wait, Jeremy?
Going back to that story, now I think I'm getting the particulars here right. The guy originally broke this story is a guy by the name of Joe Pietaro. He does a magazine called Muscle Sport Mag. He, when this whole thing was going on between Lee Thompson and IFBB NPC, apparently Lee Thompson filed a lawsuit against the IFBB and NPC for this very thing that Keith is talking about, that people were getting threatened, is saying if you leave, you're never going to be able to come back. And apparently he won that suit, which prompted Jim Mannion. I don't have a copy of it with me, but apparently they were forced to issue a memo because they lost this lawsuit. The IFBB and NPC were forced to issue a memo saying you can go to other places. You can go and compete other places or such. Now, as far as I understand, legally they could do that, but that's on paper. As to how that actually translates into real life, I don't know. But supposedly there was a solution to this, but as I said, it's like just because it's on paper doesn't mean it's in reality.
Well, and again, and you're right about it, Jeremy, because what happened was they sat there and said, well, you can come back over, but they knew the ones that were coming back over. And again, who controls the sport? The judges. So if you came back over and you were placing last, that was telling you the writing was on the wall. Like, okay, you come back over. God, what was his name? Sean Allen from Jersey. He did it. And, I competed against him at junior nationals. And, he told me, he's like, worst move I've ever made, and he was a pretty good super heavyweight for a long time. But again, he told me, he goes, I knew coming back over here was going to be an uphill climb. And it was another fitness girl and another figure girl who did the same thing. And you can come back and they'll let you come back, but that doesn't mean you're going to do well in the sport. And that's what happened to him. They're like, okay, you want to sit here and go over and think about it, George. That guy from the Europe who just did that, they just took his qualification away from him. You know, so and I'm like, and that's the problem I have with that. It's like, you know, if I can make revenue someplace else, why are you taking that away from me? Because you're not guaranteeing me any revenue if I don't place in the top 5 in this sport. So basically, you own my ass once I sign this IFBB contract, and that kind of sucks. But you know, it was messy. It was super duper messy, and I mean like. I mean, it was a lot of people that, and Jeremy, I don't know if you remember, it was a lot of people that he put out there.
Yeah, it was like I remember seeing the video. He really did go on blast with people. Like he named names. He didn't. He wasn't general at all. So
I was like, this dude's gonna die. I mean, because I look at the IFBB when I was younger coming into the sport as the mafia. You know, it's like, you know, when Steve, people don't understand Steve Weinberger is probably one of the most, he's kind of changed over the years, but was kind of one of the most intimidating people I've ever met. So I remember at Junior Nationals when he walked by me and he's like, good job, Keith. I'm like, oh my God, Steve Weinberger spoke to me for the first time ever, because this dude is that intimidating, you know. And the IFBB is the good old boy system. And we all know that still to this day, you know. They keep the shit in the family. Tyler Mannion, come on, vice president. Steve, you know, Jim, you know, they keep that shit in the family, you know. So at the end of the day, you know, you don't want to piss people off. Because I remember somebody saying when I was having all these runner-ups, they're like, well, you know why he keeps getting runner-ups? Because he's bitching and complaining. And I never said anything. I said, I'm going to take my lashings. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to piss and moan about the judges, because that's just going to blackball me. And so I didn't say shit to anybody. I just said, okay, hopefully the 4th time I get it. And I got it my 4th time. But, you know, and the funny thing is, when I got my pro card, you know, invited me to the show to get my pro card. Steve Weinberger, he's like, hey, come do Team U. And I was like, all right, bet. And I was like, I didn't want to do Team U. I wanted to do USA's. And somebody says, if he's telling you to come do a show, you're about to get your pro card. So I went and got my pro card. So it's funny how the shit works, bro. It's funny how the shit works.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
To get back to what you originally were asking about, that's hard for me to hear. Because I remember seeing her competing at the Miss. I remember her competing at the Miss International, and even though it hurts to say it, I see this as one word: betrayal.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because if you put one of those pictures up again of her, that's not extreme.
No.
That she had, now the other one where she did the most muscular. That's not extreme. That's not extreme. She made her bones in this industry looking extreme. She's one of the women who went to that extreme. So it's like, I don't understand how she can say, oh, it's getting too extreme, when you were one of those extreme people.
Exactly.
And you were able to succeed in bodybuilding and rise up in this industry because of that extreme look. So it's like, I don't understand how she can say, oh, it's getting so extreme, when right there, that's not extreme.
And then you're
that you were participating in that. So it's like, I look at that, it's like, this is betrayal.
And then
because you're looking. You're
can
looking.
She change your mind? Because she possibly changed your mind. Look at it like maybe.
No, she's not thinking about it like that. She's thinking about that. She wants to. She's seeing how the sport is changing, and instead of either changing it for the better, she doesn't want no part of it. You know, it's up. You know, like she may not change her mind. We got a comment here.
But didn't you say, George? But George, didn't you say that she took women's bodybuilding and women's physique out of her show?
Yeah, she used to, you know, when she had her shows, she took, first time she used to have the Pro Championship, she used to have women's bodybuilding. And they stopped having that thing after 2008, 2009. Then she used to have other shows where she had women's physique. And when they're not even her shows, I think, unless it's maybe bikini or maybe men's classes, or even, I don't think she even have figure. Because I don't even like when I do my videos when I talk about upcoming shows. I see what shows on the list. I go to NPC News Online, see what shows come on the list. None of her shows are on the list unless it's amateur. I think she does amateur stuff. She does not do any pro shows. She doesn't even, like I said, she kicked out women's bodybuilding. She don't have physique anymore. I don't think she even do figure. I don't think she even do any other shows because you don't see a show. I think maybe one or two that she does, but because they don't have those particular divisions that I do content on, I don't talk about it. Here we got a comment from my man War. He says, Betty Pariso was amazing in her prime. Oh my God. I was so infatuated with her back then for a woman her age. Yeah, because she was like about 40 something by the time she turned a pro, and she was nearly 50 when she retired. She's almost 70 because I think she turned 69 this year. Here we also got a comment from Warrior. He says, I think in a couple of years, Tina will be a top 5 Miss Olympia. I think she has the potential. She just needs more time. Yeah, that's a process. It's about a process. But, here's your stand that you were part of this sport. It's kind of like when Bev Francis kicked out women's bodybuilding from the New York Pro. But Bev changed her mind. She brought it back. We're not going to see Arnold ever do that because, Arnold, he's stuck in his ways. He's not going to ever change. But someone like Betty Pariso.
It's called a sellout. I mean,
think
about it. When he ran for governor, what did he do? Had Gold's Gym take down all his pictures. Here's the thing. You have a gym take down all your pictures at a gym that made you who you are. And now you're back in it. Now that you're not governor, you got 6 different shows in 6 different continents. Your picture's back up at the gym. But isn't what made you who you are was bodybuilding?
That's what you call a hypocrite.
Exactly. That's why I don't respect the dude. And it's not just about women's body. It's like, come on now. It's like, come on. You had it back in the day. There's plenty of money to be spread around. You have the biggest sports festival in the country on 6 different continents, mind you, and then you take it out. It's like, again, it doesn't make sense to me, especially you take out figure now, women's physique and women's bodybuilding, but yet and here's the funny thing. Did you guys notice what happened at the Olympia? What was the main things that go on at the Olympia this year? Wellness. So it was bigger than women's bodybuilding. It was like one of the last things to go on was women's wellness. Like they made it one of the main attractions of the Olympia this year, which was crazy. I'm like, really? I'm like, didn't make any sense to me. Didn't make any sense.
Well, like I said, I only watched the first half of it, and then after that, I was done. That's just me. But yeah, because it's they got blouse sponsors. But like I said again, that division is starting to evolve, and those women will get to the point where you're going to see, like I said again, like how when women's bodybuilding, how women's physique evolved, because you have a lot of female bodybuilders who didn't have no shows to compete in, so they go over to women's physique, and that changed the division because of that. You have more women coming from. You're not having women coming from wellness. There's no, this is a brand new division. You having women coming from other divisions to go into this one, and they're going to change the aspect of that division. They're not going to be as soft. Not going to be, the look you want to look, the feminine look. These women are going to come in hard with glutes and with styrations and,
butt injections.
Because it's funny, like, hey, most women don't naturally, unless you are Black, Latina, of some kind of ethnic background, where you have those strong, hips, the bigger hips, the thicker thighs. Yes, but if you are someone like my man loves Lily Dong, she's Chinese, and and I'm like,
I like her legs, man. She got some nice legs.
Well, I mean,
you see the styrations in it. I just like her. That's all.
I remember when they started talking about this, and Tyler Mannion was right before we did the Tampa Pro, because Dexter rode in, and I was competing in that show, and they were introducing. They were saying how it was coming, but it was for they were saying it was for the women who had kind of like what you're saying, George, the pear-shaped bodies, the little upper bodies, and the big glutes and hamstrings and things like that. And I remember, George, I think it was a couple years ago, you sent me the video of the guy doing the YouTube saying how it's just gotten too extreme. They already carried away with wellness, and I'm just like, what are we watching? What is it real? Is it fake? Is it butt implants? Is it like, I don't know what, I'm like, Because I remember looking at 3 girls that I took pictures of, and I'm like, they're all wearing 3 suits, and I'm like, are they the same person? But they're 3 different people, But again, it's kind of like bikini. It's a tits and ass show, so it is what it is at the end of the day. So
What was the name? What was the name of that wellness competitor? Jeez, I don't know who she is. I don't follow wellness at all, so I don't know the names. The only thing I remember is I guess she was a doctor.
Oh,
I don't
Dr.
know if
Cindy
she. I don't,
Andrews.
and apparently they had a shot of her, the rear pose, or whatever the pose is called, or what have you. And everybody, and I mean everybody, said the same word: implant.
Yeah.
Every single one of them said, "What the hell is going on here?"
Yep.
It's like this. Even the women were saying, "This is clearly an implant." And it was like, all right, it's like, okay, it's like, but if you're having to do that in bodybuilding, it's like, what is an implant going to do for you that improved training and dieting won't do for that division?
Exactly.
Same thing. Same thing for bikini. When Tom Platz was on Go Figure podcast, and he said he knows of bikini girls who are taking more anabolics than he did in his heyday. And again, it was like, what is gear going to do for you in bikini that improved training and dieting won't do? What's the need for that?
I had a friend. She is a pro women's bodybuilder. She's retired. She's a judge now. She remember was a couple years ago. She was at an event. And it was this girl she knew, and she came up to her, and she's a bikini competitor, amateur. Asked her about gear. And the thing is, why do you need gear as a bikini competitor? And if you look at it again, the bikini girls, when bikini was brought in, it was taken from companies like, the idea from companies like Hawaiian Tropic and
Miss Tropicana.
Tropicana, yeah, and them. And they had that more soft feminine look. But you're getting bikini girls with with abdominals and also their back. They let the hair hang, but then if you take and smooth some of those girls' hair, their backs are just as developed as some figure competitors.
And again, it's a judging thing. They're letting this shit go on. It's crazy. It's like
I hear bikini girls talk about their back training. Like, why? That back pose, your hair is down. They can't see. They can't see shit. So how in the world do you judge? How do you judge muscle? You can't even see. What's the point of it?
They need to go ahead and just those girls who want to go up to figure. If you feel like go up to figure. Get the start working out. Go ahead and move up. They keep the division for, as I said again, for the tits and ass, for the beat the meat crowd. That's what they keep it for. I don't care too much about it. I have done some couple interviews with her. It's a lot hard to get with the open girls because a couple of ladies I talked to were more masters, and even with them, it's hard to get on because I do like to open. I do have done talks to ladies and amateurs, but it's hard to get to the pro level girls because their mindset is totally different. That's why it's so easy for me now to talk to women's bodybuilding, physique, and figure. Even now, it's harder.
Well, here's. Oh, go ahead, George.
Go ahead. Here goes from my man War. He says, "I lost my respect for Arnold Schwarzenegger. He'd been away from the bodybuilding world too long. Then he comes back with this different attitude, being anti-WBB, anti-WPD, and anti-figure. Yeah, that's the thing. And then you can put up the prize money for men's bodybuilding, but don't want to come because who want to come to a show where they don't have enough of your division represented? Especially this is the biggest show outside of the Olympia."
Well, here's the thing, guys. We always have to realize one thing, and what is that? Revenue. The revenue in women's bikini and the revenue in women's wellness has grown tremendously. The revenue in men's physique has grown tremendously. So you see more numbers in those categories. And remember, George, I sent you those numbers. You see more numbers in those categories and that's just pro. So can you imagine all these amateur NPC shows? And I don't even know how many shows there are in the country nowadays. How many wellness? I mean, and shit, when I used to compete, it was like 50 or 75 bucks to get in the show. Now it's like 150, 200 bucks to enter a show. It's revenue. It's revenue that you create these divisions because of revenue. Women's bikini. I mean, shit. What was it? I forgot at the New York or the Team U how many 600 girls at the Team U this year, 600 bikini girls.
I think it
So
was 600 because I know
600 times
Wayne was there.
600 times $300 per person, and that's just if they're in one class. But most of them probably in a couple classes. Then you have, then you have all these nationals. Then you have USAs. And you have junior nationals, junior USAs, all the amateur shows. Do you know how much money we're talking about?
And
We're
right now,
talking about
Gary
a lot of damn money.
yeah,
A
and
lot of money.
That's what Gary Odom has that one pro show that is the World Master Championship, and all the rest of the shows are amateur shows. That's where he makes his money off of.
Yeah.
And one thing though that
Huh?
one thing you gotta realize though historically is that they can't keep doing what they're doing. And what they're trying to do is this. They've been doing this now for 24 years. They always keep coming out with a new division. The look is always supposed to be smaller than female bodybuilding, and they're always saying this is an alternative. And then it's successful for a while until they start getting bigger. This happened with fitness. This is happening with figure. It's happening with women's physique. And with wellness and bikini, those are successful for now. When they start putting on muscle and when your wellness and bikini girls start looking like figure competitors today, when that happens, guess what they're going to try to do? They're going to try to come up with another division. And say, but it's like, this is a stopgap solution. You can't keep coming up with new divisions. Otherwise, you're going to have a women's division that's so damn big, and the show is going to be so damn big, it's going to be a week long. The show will start on Monday and end on Sunday next.
Think about it, Art. Jeremy. I mean, you have Gary who puts on the college pro or the college collegiate Masters show. He got North Americans, and he has a shit ton of other shows. But those two shows are combined are 4-day shows, 4 or 5 day shows now. So if you're having a show that's 4 or 5 days, do you know how many competitors that you have to have?
Right.
On the 4 or 5 day show, Team U, 4 or 5 day shows. I mean, so I can't imagine the revenue that him and Steve are seeing from these shows. I think when Bruce entered the show was like when he turned pro in North America, I think each class he entered was like $300. And most of these guys, like I've seen some guys and some girls like entering like I had some guys like I remember being backstage with them, and like one guy was like he did classic physique, and bodybuilding. So he's like, I'm gonna roll the dice. So that's $900 in entries right there alone. 900. And I think he ended up turning pro in like Bruce. He did classic physique and physique. He ended up doing pro. And here's the funny thing, George. Here's how crazy this is. So he went to the Hurricane show this weekend, and he was 7th in physique and 5th in classic physique. So he placed. But I didn't think that you can cross over from one division to another as a pro. But here's the catch. If you're a master and you pay for that shit, you can. So remember I told you in this conversation, there was a guy who did classic physique who was 5th in classic physique in the 40 and over and beat me in the bodybuilding, who was probably 20 to at least 40 pounds lighter than me, who did bodybuilding. And I'm like, again, how do you let competitors do that? Revenue, money. Oh, you want to do this? I'm not going to tell you no. I think Bruce said it was $270 per masterclass that you did at Tim Gardner's Master Pro Show. I'm like, wow. So again, the question I asked, I'm like, I turned pro as an open competitor, but I'm like, these people who turn in pro as masters and doing these master shows, again, what I just say, the IFBB is not stupid. I will give out 1,000 master pro cards because I know these master pros are going to go do these shows, and I'm going to get more money out of them because unlike open, like when I did Legion show, here's a prime example, guys. I did Legion show and I did open and masters, right? When I went into the open, because they introduced us first and all this other stuff, we got these nice jackets, goodie bags, and all this other stuff. As a master, I just got a goodie bag. But as an open, I got the sweatsuit and all the good stuff. I didn't have to pay for that, but I had to pay to compete in the master class. I think it was like $150. It wasn't like TIM shows are like $270. So the IFBB is not stupid because they're saying we'll give Bruce and all these masters a pro card and they want to do a pro show. We're still going to be making money off of them because $275 for a pro card. And then if they want to enter a master show like Gary shows or any of these Tim Garner shows, you're paying a minimum of like $200 to $250 to enter the show. So how the hell are you sitting here saying I'm a pro, even though I'm a master's? If I was an open, I don't have to pay to enter a show. I just sign a contract. But a master's, I got to pay you $150, $200 to do a pro show.
Mm.
It's about money. Crazy? It's about money. We had a few more comments from a man Warriors before we head out. Says Arnold Schwarzenegger's show, the Arnold Classic Festival, now has various things other than what should be bodybuilding. We all know that. They have slap fights, they have super pose
dancing.
yeah, that. Also, Warrior says we have enough classes and divisions for women. No more IFBB. And also, he says that he says this, and I don't even like bikini and wellness. Well, like I said, I will watch it, especially for Jada, because she's a friend. But truthfully, I don't care too much about it. I don't do a lot of content on it. And the ladies don't. Other than maybe a handful here and there, I don't use with. But generally, most of my stuff is few ladies in there. So, gentlemen, this was a very interesting perspective of how the sport is evolving. How there need to be. We keep talking about this, and maybe it's getting old, but maybe people will listen. Stick to the criteria. I'm like this. This year, Olympia, I think Andrea, she deserved to win. She deserved it. Some people I feel like should have placed a little better. I think Sherry probably should have been in the top 5. I think Michaela should have been also in the top 5. I think some women should have been in the top 10. Some say that Sarah Vickers should have won, but Sarah always come condition. And then I think Natalia might have came in a little off this year. If Sherrod Hinton came in better condition, she probably took second place. Even if she came in better condition than Sarah, she could have won. But it's just my opinion, my thoughts as a fan. And it's not the Bible, it's not the truth. It's just what I think and what I see, especially when I do content on you ladies. And I do appreciate y'all liking the stuff. I know y'all have time, right? Yeah, you're busy, but still, this is your sport. If you have a problem with it, come out. I understand you don't want to be back, but change doesn't happen if no one takes the chance of that change. Everything's gonna stay the same. So I'm just giving
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like what Warrior said. He's exactly right. It's like, stop coming up with new divisions. Stop adding classes. Fix the shit you've already got. Get that straightened out. None of these divisions, none of them would have been necessary if they had actually stuck with their guns with both men's and women's bodybuilding. None of them would be necessary. If they would have just stuck with it, what they were supposed to be looking for, and that's not just recently, but I mean going back decades. None of these divisions would have even been necessary if they would have just stuck with what they were supposed to be doing. What worked. Stuck with what worked, and they didn't.
But Jeremy, at the end of the day, it's not necessary. They just want more money.
I know.
That's all this is about. It's about money. That's all this is about. It's like, I remember they coming out with it was like the people who have prosthetic legs. They have that new division where, like, if you have a prosthetic legs, and I remember they announcing, I think at Phil Heath show in Texas, that was a new category, and I can't remember but it's a new category, and it's kind of cool because it's people who have prosthetic legs or arms or whatever who can compete in this division. Now I understand that, it's like wheelchair. I get that, but again, at the end of the day, is somebody thinking of how do we generate more money because we know people want to get involved, but how do we do that? So, let's create wellness. Oh, there's this, and their excuse was that for women who have pear shapes that who have big bottoms but small tops, so we're going to create that. Bikini is for the more athletic looking girls, figure, et cetera, et cetera. And like you said, the problem is, Jeremy, and you're absolutely 100% right, you haven't fixed what you got. And you keep moving, the line. It's like women's physique. You keep moving the line. What was wrong with Dana Lynn Bailey's look? What was wrong with Julius? What was wrong with Julius' look? And then you just kept pushing the line and pushing the line, and now you have Sarah. And here's the thing, and I hate to say this, and this is what KL said before he left. Politics plays a big role in this sport, and I get it. And do we not know, or think for 1 second that Sarah, the girl who's sponsoring the Texas show, who's giving each girl who places in the top 10 $1,000, promoting that show and all that stuff, with Mr. Mannion being there as a person there, that doesn't play a bit of a role in her placing?
Yeah, Warrior mentions that quite often. He says he feel like her posing not that great. He's not a fan of Sarah's posing. It's kind of nothing really. She comes in great condition, but she just really, I think, I don't know why she won in 2020 over Shanique Grant. That's the rub right there.
Well, and here's the thing. When I remember Charles saying this to me, because I was really naive when I came into this sport as an amateur even. And I was like, I just didn't understand it because, I play football. You score the most points, you win. You come across the finish line, you win. And I've said that to you guys in prior conversations. But I never understood like the whole judging thing. I just never understood how subjective it was. And I remember Charles saying to me, and this is true story. He said, "Do you understand how many envelopes get passed behind stage? This just not have to do with how good a person is. There's a lot of money involved in this shit." And I was like, really? So this is not about who's a. And I remember he was saying like when muscular development, when the magazines were out, and I'm like, you see the guy on the cover of the magazine, and he's like, this is not about them because of who they are. This is because whoever their sponsor is saying muscular development. And well, you want Ben Pulowski on the front of this muscular development, you got to buy 10 pages in our magazine. Well, that'd be like $20,000. Hey, we'll put him on the cover then. So it wasn't like because he was the best athlete. It's like, how much is the sponsors willing to pay to put their athlete on the cover of the magazine? Meaning, how many pages are you willing to buy in this magazine in order for to keep our publication running? And that's how Steve Blackman was making his money. So when Charles told me that, I remember telling somebody, I was like, probably if I would have knew that going into this sport, I probably would have not have gotten to this sport, and I'm in it now. But the politics, and that's when I think of the Sarah thing. And not saying that is the case. But when you're in bed with the powers to be, it's like when Tyler Mannion's girlfriend, that basically they told her you can't compete and date Tyler Mannion at the same time. So, and she quit. So now she's just a judge, and a pro judge, Olympia judge, with Tyler, but now she's just a judge. But she was placing in all the Olympiads for a long time, but people got wind of that. It's like, that can't happen. So, again, at the end of the day, Charles Glass put me on that. He goes, people don't understand how much money gets passed between people, to keep this engine running. And it's just interesting,
But the thing is that, it's like Janine Lankowski when she was here. She said, it's about money. We get it. But at the same time, you have to face reality here. How many, if we do in fact end up going with week-long shows because we keep adding division after division, how many people are going to be able to afford that?
They can't.
How many people are going to be able to afford a week's stay at a hotel?
Yeah.
How many people are going to be able to afford that? And then also it's like the fan base. It's like, how many people are actually going to go to a show that's a week long? How many people have the free time to be able to do that?
Nobody.
So it's like, you can do that. And the same thing goes with competitors. It's like, you got a week-long show, but who's going to be able to stay an entire week?
Yeah.
Especially they got a job. So you're right. They're doing it with money, and I understand the money is a deal, but eventually a critical mass is going to be reached. And they're coming up with new ones now. I think it was Melody Spetko. Even criticized this. She said up in Canada, somebody came up with a new division called Unlimited Bikini. And she said, unlimited how? Unlimited number of bikinis that you could wear? Unlimited number of competitors? How exactly is this division unlimited? So they just basically came up with a half-assed division clear out of the air and gave it another one, and it's based on what you said. It's about money. But eventually, a critical mass is going to be reached. People are going to say, enough is enough. We can't do this anymore. You got to fix what's there.
I told you
You can't keep coming up with new stuff. You just can't.
I told you when I was an amateur, Peter Potter had a show. Shit, what was it called in Florida? But it was like a division, and I remember because as an amateur, I was there till like 1:00 in the morning because they had like a men's like model thing. So you had a denim jean round, a pull up round, a push up round, a shorts round. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah. It was like I was like it was at this show that I did. Southern States. And I was like the dudes came out in denim jeans with no shirt on. They had a pull up contest, a push up, and like we were there to like I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? But you know how many guys that they had in that class in that show? Like 150. It was like a model competition, but I mean, it was like combined men's physique, and
with like fitness.
Yeah,
I think they did try to do a fitness men's division, but it just didn't work out.
Men's fitness, yes.
It just didn't work out. I think somebody said there's some in European states.
Yeah,
but it just didn't work out here in America. It's like the whole thing with the men's wellness. So, gentlemen,
there was just one more thing I was wanting to mention. Here's an example of critical mass getting reached and people had enough. The one-piece round in figure, because that's when figures started. It originally had two. It had a one-piece round and a two-piece round. Yep. And that's what they originally wanted. There was so much of a hue and cry about that. Not just from the competitors, but for the fans alike. Said, why are we doing this? Because the figure division would go on forever. Because what they had to do is they came out, they did the prejudging with the one-piece round. Everybody had to run back, get in their two-piece suits, and we had a prejudging two-piece round. They had to switch out judging panels because they were getting so tired from all of the girls that were going to be up there. And people finally said, "We've had it. Enough is enough. Get rid of this bullshit." And they did, because there was so much of a protest over it. And they need to be doing the same thing. Same thing here. Is it to say enough of all these fucking divisions? Fix what you've got.
Because you remember, fitness used to have like a one piece, they have an evening gown, and you had the physical part. And then I think they got rid of the evening gown, and this.
Right, they had evening gown rounds for fitness competitions.
Just anyway, gentlemen. We've been on here for a good while.
Yeah,
good conversation. Shout out to Amanda Patak. I'm sorry she couldn't stay on because there's technical difficulties. Maybe we try to get on next time. Shout out to my man KF who was here for a bit. Shout out to anybody who watched this live stream. I would honestly like to hear y'all ladies. This is your sport. This is your division. I don't care about the guys. I don't talk about them because you know what? I know every now and then, for my big brother's case, we will speak on it because this is his wheelhouse.
Hey, I'm about it. I'm about the ladies,
Yeah. Right. Like I say, like I say, it may not be the 80s, but I'm still down with the ladies.
I mean, Keith, did you just hear George say that you didn't matter?
Yeah.
What do you think of that? Damn. George, you just said Keith doesn't matter. He's right there on the screen, man. You're gonna diss him like that on your show?
I'm dying. I'm tired. I just woke up from the app and I'm still here for 2 hours.
Said again, your division. We don't talk about division.
You're looking at
me. I love you. You're my brother. I love you, but I don't care too much about division. I don't talk about it. I might speak on it. Art, man, Jeremy, man, we're gonna have to talk to you and me one of these days.
You're right, we will.
Like my man said, I'm seeing you when I see you.
There you
go. Also, this is from my man Warren. It says, "Do you matter, Chief? Do you, man?" Yeah, I'm gonna get you, Warren.
Thanks, dog. I appreciate it.
Get you. I don't need anything harsh about it. It's just it's again.
We get it.
Yeah. I'm going to say what's in my mind. Hey there, Katie. Hey there, baby.
Say hi. You can't see him. You ducking.
He's ducking. Don't worry about it. Hey, Katie. Hey, that boy getting big. That boy getting big. Okay, folks.
All
But
right, brother. Talk to you guys later.
Yeah,
see you
talk to you later,
brother.
folks.
See you later, brother. See you later. Appreciate brothers for coming through. Thank you for your prospects and your thoughts. I really enjoyed these conversations. Hope for the best. We hope that happen next year. The list won't be out for upcoming. We do have a few more shows for this year. Some of them are going to be most of the divisions. I think there's going to be a show next month. I know the Clash, Wins Physique. Also, there's the Atlantic Coast. There's the Ben Weeder Natural Show and the Remaining Muscle Fest. All the other shows are the divisions I don't really care or talk about. No offense, my man Big Keith. I know I don't talk much about his division, but it's not my wheelhouse, not my interest. No offense to you, brother. I love you. I don't care too much about your banana hammock board shorts, but I do appreciate you. My man says, Warrior says, talk to a lot, smack you know that Keith. George, I know. And he says, Chef says, I'm out. See ya. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you for coming by. So I want to shout out to my man Stefan Prey who came through, Ryan Hamilton, War 2000, Balls Deep who's here. Appreciate y'all support. Shout out to my man Big Keith. Shout out to my man KL the Wonder. Shout out to my man Jeremy. Shout out to the lovely Mrs. Amanda Patak. I know she wants to hang longer, technical difficulties, but maybe next time we get another live, if she has the time, she's free. And also shout out to the competitors at the Olympia. It's just really, I feel like the judging really has to set to the criteria. We keep talking about this: size and conditioning, the overall aesthetics of femininity, the styrations, all this stuff. This is education for you people who are just fans. Like my man Kayla, he just likes the women with muscles, but we want you to know what it takes for these women to develop these muscles, what they have to do to get to that level. It's not easy. Like Great Ronnie Coleman says, everybody wants to be a bodybuilder, but don't want to lift his heavy ass weight. So I think I'm done. Like I said, I appreciate y'all for coming through. Thank y'all. Shout out to all my guests who's here. Watch this video if you missed it. Give you perspective. Give me. If you are a competitor who watches this, my content, let me know. Say something in the comment section. Let me know what your thoughts. You got me on. You follow me on IG. You follow me on YouTube. Let me know. I really want to hear from you. Come on here and tell us. Don't just like my stuff because you like it. You like the picture. Like it because you really want to discuss it. Open discussion is good. We get a knowledge. Let these upper people in management know what you're going through, what needs to be changed. Nothing's gonna be changing. Just like the old saying goes, closed mouth doesn't get fed. Anyway, I appreciate my big brother coming through. Shout out to all the competitors. To end off to Better Reso. That's it. That's what I'm gonna give you, Betty. I can say something else, but you're one of those people who like Arnold who walk right behind the division and stab in the heart. So forget you. Anyway, it's your man always George Page, aka the Emperor of Female Body Talk. Don't like, subscribe. I am out. Have a good evening, good afternoon, and good night.